So I took my blankets and folded it long ways as a little prop for my head. And then the bolster will come underneath your knees. The head be really comfortable. Put that bolster underneath the knees. Think about coming more into a butterfly shape where the knees are out wide and the soles of the feet come together. And the bolster is there just to give you a little bit of support. Welcome to Yin. I'll settle in. Notice the heaviness in the body. Notice how the changes in weather might affect the body. Notice where the body feels supported, where it might feel ease. Notice the thoughts that race across the mind. This past week, I've been pondering the idea of Santosha, which is a Sanskrit word for contentment. And I've been thinking about how we as humans often put this if-then statement upon our life. For instance, if I get this job, then I will be happy. If I have this much money, then I will, fill in the blank. If I work less, then this will happen. And you could phrase it in any, if I smile more, then people will love me. Maybe that's a concept or an idea that you're familiar with. So take the next couple of breaths and just let the mind free form thoughts around those if-then statements. Noticing whatever arises, but notice as an observer rather than as the judge. You might have even said to yourself, if I do more yoga, then I will be more flexible. If I went to harder classes, then I would be stronger. And I started to realize that it's a lot of energy wasted thinking about the thens, the effects. And then I put it together with this idea of contentment or santosha. And realize that yoga asks us to find the good in each moment, in each breath. Can you be content with where you're at? Can you be content physically or financially or mentally or emotionally? It's not so much this idea of, oh, everything has to be positive or a silver lining, but it's deeper. It's noticing that even in the struggles that we encounter as we move along this journey of life, there's something there that we could learn. There's something there in which we could grow. As you take the next 5 rounds of breath, imagine inhaling contentment and let go of that striving for something other. Draw in contentment. And release the striving. And as your 5th breath escapes, you might slide the hands around to the thighs, help support the legs as the knees float up and the feet find the mats. You might even take a few pelvic tilts, rolling the tailbone up toward the backs of the knees and then down toward the mat. Just kind of shifting that energy that's flowing along the hips, down through the length of the legs, through the torso. The next time the tailbone lifts, press a little bit more into the feet. Reach for the bolster and start to slide the bolster underneath the hips. This might take a few adjustments, a few shifts. I want to imagine that the shoulder blades are supported by the mats and the hips themselves are supported by the mat. But the flesh of the bum cheeks might roll down toward the heels of your feet. And take a breath there, noticing. And then stretch one leg out long and rest it against the mat. Doesn't matter which. We'll hug the other leg in toward the chest, holding on with some softness. You might hold on to the shin or to the back of the leg. And before we settle into stillness, circle through the ankle a few times, maybe even spread between the toes. Create an alertness through the feet. And then we settle into this half waterfall shape, feeling the heaviness of the long leg being drawn toward the mat with gravity, feeling the bent knees supported by the hands, noticing there's a little bit of effort. Find some contentment with that effort. And then settle into a bit of ease. Searching out the contentment within the ease. Notice what happens when we find stillness and shape. Notice what happens as time passes by. Bring awareness to that bent leg. Guide it a little bit away from the body. And just hold on to the knee. And let the leg kind of swing out on the side of the rib. And then bring it across, maybe toward the midline of the body. Just kind of let it roll side to side. And the next time the knee moves to the outside of the rib cage, reach the bottom of the foot up to the ceiling, keeping the knee bent. Just resting the leg in the hand, little half happy baby. Take our 5 final rounds of breath here, letting gravity do the work. And as your 5th breath escapes, very slowly release the foot down. Stretch the leg out away from the body. Take a breath or two there with both legs long. And then gather up the other leg, hugging it in toward the chest, holding on wherever you have ease. Noticing the heaviness of the extended leg, maybe even the stretch on the top of that extended leg. Noticing the flexion of the bent leg, flexed at the hip and the knee, maybe even the ankle. Linger here, watching the breath move through the body. You might notice parts of the body where the breath feels as though it's stuck, like it can't shift or flow anymore. You might notice parts of the body where the breath is smooth and steady. Notice your reaction to that breath. Maybe a bit of gratitude for the ability to breathe. A bit of contentment if you're not stuffed up, congested in any way, change in the weather. And slowly Maybe release one of the hands and just let the hand still holding the bent leg move the leg to the outside of the torso and then back in, perhaps even across the midline. Just a little side to side or swaying motion. You might notice one side moves a little differently than the other. And then the next time the knee moves out away from the body, reach the bottom of the foot up to the ceiling. Hold on wherever it feels comfortable. A little half happy baby, noticing the effort. Three more full rounds breath. Ever so slowly, gently release the hand. Lower the foot down toward the mat, extending the leg long. Take a few rounds of breath there. And then start to drag the heels back toward the bum, putting some weight into the bottom of the feet. As we prepare to move the bolster, lift the hips. You can move it toward the heels first and then slide it over to one side or the other, but slide it all the way. We'll set the bum down on the mats. Keep the knees nice and bent. Take the arms alongside the body. And then just reach the arms up to the ceiling. Take the arms open overhead toward the ears. Shoulders can be any distance apart. And then bring them back toward the body. Let's do that again. Up to the ceiling. Over the head. Up to the ceiling. Pause there. A little bit of brain work. One arm goes to the head, one arm goes toward the legs. And then lift both arms to the ceiling and switch the direction in which it's flowing. Maybe you start to widen the space between the hands as you repeat the motion. Maybe you start to narrow the space. Let's check in with how the hands, the arms, the shoulders feel. And the next time the arms lift, pause. Find a little movement through the wrist, circling wrist, moving fingers. And then stretch one leg nice and long, rested on the mat. Hug the opposite leg in toward the chest. We'll guide that bent leg across the body, moving into supine twists. You might land the leg on the bolster. If it's on that side, you can always move it. If it's not, the opposite arm or both arms might stretch out like a letter T. Take a couple of shifts here. Maybe you roll the head a bit side to side. You're searching out a place where the neck feels at ease. You're inviting the shoulders and the arms to be heavy, a leg to be supported. And then you settle into the stillness. You breathe in contentment. Maybe you notice a bit of peace settling into the body as we practice stillness. Notice this past week, the more I think about Santosha, and I take moments to search out that contentment. This bubbling of peace arises within me. Almost as though my demeanor, my attitude, my outlook changes. I can feel that peace spreading. I can feel the joy around me. Maybe we catch a glimpse of it here in the practice. I'll start to follow just 5 final rounds of breath. Shift awareness to the arm that's slightly behind you, to the fingertips. Start to curl the fingertips in toward the fist, lifting the hand, bending the elbow. Moving those fingertips toward the shoulder. And then slide the fingertips down across the chest. Rolling on to the side as the arm slides down the bottom arm. You might find that the forehead starts to roll toward the mat as you reach the top hand past the bottom. And then take that top hand and make a big circle with it. Bring the fingers toward the head. You might roll onto the back of the head, rolling onto the spine, to the shoulders as the arm circles around and down toward the leg. Bring it back up to meet the other hand, rolling onto the side again. Stretching the top hand past the bottom. And then slide that top hand toward the bottom fingers. Softly trace the palm, the arm, the elbow. Slide that arm up to the chest, across the chest. Stretch it out nice and long again, letter T shape. Take a deep breath here. Maybe an audible sigh out the mouth. And then roll on to the back. Take both legs nice and wide. Then take the bolster and just place it on my belly. Little added weight there. Some people like it on the chest. Some people like it on the belly. Some people like it even closer to the thighs. Take up space for this rebound shape star. Legs are wide, arms are wide. You might find length in the head. Length through the neck. As the sensations, the reverberations from holding that supine twist start to subside. Slide the legs closer together. Transfer the bolster to the other side. We'll gather the leg that was originally bent, or excuse me, originally straight. Let's bend it in toward the chest, hugging it in. And then guiding it across the body as we roll into that supine twist. There's an invitation for the arms to open, for the shoulders to be heavy. You can adjust the bolster to support the leg or the foot if that calls to you. You could roll the head a bit side to side, searching out a place where the neck feels at ease. And then we settle into that stillness, quiet. We notice what shows up. Sort of stories, if then stories show up. Maybe you're waiting for something. If I meet the perfect person, my life will be full of bliss. Could you take those stories and rework them into moments of contentment? This time by myself fosters self-care, a growing of independence, a growing of love for oneself. Whatever the story is. You can stay connected to that practice of contentment. You could take a moment of gratitude. And you could settle into the space of nothing, stillness. Using this opportunity to simply be with yourself. Awareness, the fingertips of the arms slightly behind you. Moving, bending at the knuckles, drawing fingertips in toward the hand. Lifting the hand and the forearm as the elbow bends. Gliding the fingertips toward the shoulder. Down across the chest. Rolling over onto the side as the arm slides down the bottom arm. Maybe onto the forehead as the hand glides past the bottom hand. And then invite that circle in, stretching the arm toward the head. Rolling the arm behind you as the head comes down, the back comes down, the shoulders back toward the legs. Eventually meeting the other arm. And then sliding the hand past. Trace the bottom arm once more, guiding it up along that bottom arm toward the shoulder, across the chest, extending it out. And take that hand that's behind you and start to float it up to the ceiling. We'll bring the palms together. You can kind of shift the bolster out of the way. Maybe bend both the knees, stack the legs, take a pause there. And then roll a little bit more toward the floor. Top hand presses down into the ground. It lifts the body upright. We'll make our way to sit. Taking the legs nice and wide. Big V shape. You can slide the blanket underneath the hips if you want a little extra lift. You can gather up the bolster like a big pillow, hugging it in toward the body. Maybe resting the chin on the edge of the bolster. Could also make it be horizontal. We're allowing the hips to hinge forward, the bolster to provide a soft place for the torso or the arms or the head to land. Take several breaths, noticing the way the breath moves along the spine. You might feel the inhale come up the belly, across the chest, up toward the throat, and then down the back of the body. You might feel the breath in a different way. Just become aware of that breath moving through you. Oftentimes in our dragonfly shape, gravity draws the body down. Feel free to adjust if that happens, and then settle back into the stillness. Following 5 final rounds of breath here. As the breath escapes, the hands press palms down, activate across the muscles of the torso, lifting upright. Taking a pause there, noticing. And maneuver the bolster. As you slide the legs together, we're going to take the bolster toward the short edge of the mat. It's going to be a little prop underneath the arms for Sphinx pose. You might bend the knees as you make your way onto the belly. Some people like the blanket underneath the hips. Some people just set it out to the side. Stretch the legs out behind us. Lengthening down and around the low back. Forearms catch the bolster. Take several shoulder shrugs here before we settle in. Reaching the shoulders up toward the ears. Maybe rolling them down the back as you lift up and lengthen the neck. The head and the shoulders and the neck. Find a bit of ease here. You might check in with the low back. If there's tension there, if the back complains, you can always remove the bolster. You could also engage the bum muscles. Let the bum help support the low back. If there's no sensation along the low back, maybe you bend the knees and just let the toes float toward the ceiling. All the variations that we could take, there's not one that's better than the other. There's no hierarchy. Creating variations, realizing, recognizing that we are all in different bodies with different stories, with different traumas. And we're just searching for one in which we can feel this dangling sensation of the spine. Side and around breath. Back to that drawing in of contentment. And the releasing, the sharing of the peace. Slide the elbows out, let the chest rest Bolster, mats. Take a moment there. Coming into a bit of child's pose, using it as a counter stretch. Let the hands support you as you press up and in through tabletop. We're going to feel a rounding of the low back. That might be big toes together, knees apart. It might be a rotation of the bolster so the torso has a place to land. Sometimes I like knees together. And then the arms just stretch over the bolster. Whatever works for you is perfect. The intention here is that stretch along the low back. You might find a little sway or a shift ever so slightly side to side. And then eventually you settle in stillness. We'll begin to follow those 5 final rounds of breath. We'll be adding a bit of sway side to side these last 2 rounds of breath. And then hands come down to the mats. got the bolster, slide it forward a little bit. Yogi's choice here. Tabletop's an excellent way to lift up. In my body, I'm really craving a down dog. Maybe you tuck the toes and lift the knees and send the hips up and back. Maybe it's a lifting of one leg, extending that hip crease, and then the other. Take another breath or two wherever you are. And then we'll meet in tabletop. I'm going to slide the bolster. I'm going to thread it underneath my legs, in between the legs. And then in your tabletop, take a few rounds of cat and cow, moving through the spine. And as we find this movement through the spine, just ask yourself how your knees and your shins feel. I'm going to cue a saddle pose where we straddle the bolster just for a short moment or two. But that shape is sometimes really intense. If there's complaining in the knees, you take any comfortable seated shape. If you're moving into straddle with me, the bum rests on the bolster, the knees might squeeze the bolster in. Shoulders might roll around and down the back, arms rest comfortably. I'm going to keep my eyes closed here and add a little bit of chanting. The word for peace in Sanskrit is shanti. 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 Peace, peace, peace. I'll chant that 2 more times. You're welcome to join me. Shanti. 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 Shifting forward, putting weight into the hands again. Maybe lifting one leg, and kind of moving the bolster off to the side. We'll make our way to Shavasana, transitioning any way that feels nice. As the bolster can Come underneath the knees. If you need a little heart opener, you can slide it up along the spine. We'll come to rest on our back. Before you settle completely in, take a moment and find some engagements. Curl the toes in, clench up the muscles of the legs, squeeze the bum. Activate the muscles of the arm, even the fingers make fists, scrunch up the face, and then let it go. I'll do that 2 more times. All of the struggles and the strife that we encounter is this engagement within the body, even squeezing the back. And then the release, the plop. That's the Santosha. 1 more time on your own. And then release. Settle into that contentment. Settle into the peace. Awareness to the head. Back of the head rolled a bit side to side. And then awareness down to the tips of the fingers. Letting the fingers move and shift And then reach both arms up toward the sky. Make an X with the arms. Bend the elbows. Let the hands drip down toward the shoulders. A soft hug, an embrace of support. And then open the arms nice and wide. Shift awareness down to the toes, creating movements, maybe ankles, points and flex. And the knees bend. If you've got that bolster underneath the body, now's a good time to roll it out of the way. We'll hug both knees into the chest and let the body sway side to side. And that movement gradually becomes a little bit larger, eventually propelling us all the way over to one side or the other. Taking a moment, a breath there, drawing in the contentment. And then pressing the top hand down, lifting up the body, coming into any comfortable seated shape. We'll snuggle the tailbone down into the mat, rebounding the energy from deep below the building up into the spine, rounding the shoulders down the back. Circle the arms out and up. And slide the palms together down the midline. Maybe hands rest at the heart. Maybe they return to the lap. A soft tuck of the chin, this gesture of gratitude for the practice of yoga, for the quiet stillness of yin, for the development, the opportunity to practice Santosha. From my heart to yours. Namaste.